Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Mikah Sargent, and this is the Tech Guy Podcast. This episode of the Tech Guy, episode 1937, originally aired on the Premier Networks on Saturday, October 22nd, 2022. Enjoy. This episode of The Tech Guy is brought to you by Nareva. Nareva has simplified everything about meetings and classroom audio. You get great audio and systems that are easy to install and manage. Visit nareva.com/twit and get 50% off one Nareva HDL 300 system for mid-size rooms when you get a live online demo and buy before December 16th, 2022. And by CacheFly. Deliver your video on the network with the best throughput and global reach, making your content infinitely scalable. Go live in hours, not days. Learn more at cachefly.com. Hey, and hello, friends. How are you today? It is Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I am also your tech guy, as they say, and so excited to be joining you today to talk tech, to talk computers, the internet, things with chips in them, smartwatches, smartphones, smart computers. I don't know why my voice is doing this, but I'm so excited to be joining you today. Of course, the phone number you call if you have a question that you want answered is 888-827-5536 or 8888-ASK-LEO and Mikah. And Leo will be back with you all tomorrow, but until then, you've got me, friends. Today, I thought we could take a moment, as I think Leo and I are often wont to do, to talk about the latest from Apple, because Apple decided not to host an event this year, interestingly, at the end of the year, and instead just sort of did some press releases and said, hey, we've got some new products that are out, and you can check them out. And I believe that some press were invited to kind of learn about the products, and will, I'm sure, get some models to review. But Apple announced 3 new areas, we'll say. First is a reintroduction of the iPad, the standard iPad. There's no little name after it. It's not the iPad Air or the iPad Pro. It's just iPad. And it comes in, as Apple says, 4 vibrant colors, one of which is not really a color, but is instead a lack of color. So yeah, I guess that's a thing. But it comes in 4 colors, and it moves the webcam, interestingly, the camera on the front of the iPad, to the landscape side of things, which I find the most fascinating bit of it. This is an iPad that is 10.9 inches, from corner to corner, that diagonal measurement, and gets a few boosts, gets a few upgrades. But I think most importantly, is Apple has kept this iPad locked in with that first generation Apple Pencil. So they are still selling it. It's the one that when you take the end off of it, it has a little lightning connector on the end of it. And you were meant to, in the past, plug it into the side of the iPad and let it charge there. So it just kind of dangled on the side. It was rather precarious. Now, because this iPad has USB-C as a connection, you actually need an adapter to be able to charge it. I think that of anything, that was the most perplexing part of this announcement. It's like, could we not have just done the new iPad, the new Apple Pencil to go along with the iPad? Alas, they did not. This iPad, I think, it's coming in at the sort of lowest spec as you can possibly get, and that is because it is the most affordable iPad, and that has remained true forever. You've got that iPad, you've got the iPad Air, you've got the iPad Pro, and it kind of climbs up the ranks in terms of power and cost. And so you've just seen some minor upgrades here. Of course, it's got that camera on the back, and it does not have any of the new display technology. In fact, the display on this iPad is not even laminated, which is kind of a more modern way of doing a display where you layer the screen and the screen technologies and the screen covering all together, and it's very thin so that it looks as if there's no glass between you and the display that you're touching, that you're pressing against. So yeah, these four colors, which are, I believe, it's meant to be blue, red, yellow, and silver, are now available. And Apple has announced a new, it's called the Magic Keyboard Folio, which is I think the most interesting part of this announcement, if you ask me, it's a two-piece device, the two-piece case, where you've got one area that goes on the back of the iPad, and then a little area where the keyboard and the trackpad are that goes on the side, and you can remove that keyboard and trackpad and just have the back part of the case alone. So I find that part the most interesting of this iPad announcement. And of course, this features Touch ID as the means to unlock it, which is something that I found I've really enjoyed with the iPads that I've had, being able to just tap on the side of the iPad and sort of wake it and unlock it at the same time. Apple also upgraded the iPad Pro by popping in an M2 chip. This is Apple's latest Apple Silicon. Of course, we saw this in the new MacBook Air, and we will probably see this coming to more Macs still in the end of this year. So that's expected to happen soon. But for now, it has made its way into the iPad Pro. And honestly, there's not much else to say about the iPad Pro other than it has M2. In fact, if you look at the little text here that mentions what's new about the iPad Pro, they're mostly talking about iPadOS 16, which is the next version of iPadOS, which is going to come to many an iPad. And then you get Wi-Fi 6E, which is exciting, right? That's the faster Wi-Fi, but you've got to have a router that's able to handle Wi-Fi 6E to deliver Wi-Fi 6E, and then something called Apple Pencil Hover, which you can try to say 5 times fast. And what it does is it works with the second generation Apple Pencil and just kind of provides a little bit of preview as you are writing with the stylus. So as you bring that Apple Pencil 2 down towards the iPad, then depending on what you're doing, if you are in a drawing app, for example, it'll show kind of a little circle on the screen. And then as you touch it, of course, then that's whenever the movement takes place. So I think kind of interesting, but again, this feels a little bit like how I was feeling about the new iPhone whenever the new iPhone was announced. The dynamic island was the feature that was kind of like, ooh, that's why I've got to have the latest iPhone. And then you get it, and it's neat, and it works, and it's exciting and new, but is it enough to warrant people making that upgrade from their current model iPads? And this is something that Apple has kind of always dealt with, is figuring out when it is time to get people upgrading their iPad, and frankly, just convincing people to upgrade their iPads, because people do tend to hold on to them for a long time, because even after they sort of may reach the point of not being able to be used very well in terms of their performance, they're still great devices to have around as a quick way to sort of sit down and watch a show or browse the internet or look at your email. And so they tend to stick around for a long, long time. It's just another display to have in the house. So I think Apple tends to struggle with this, trying to figure out how to introduce new features that will make people interested in upgrading to the latest model. So I've gotten some questions so far about, should I upgrade? This is the iPad that I have. This is what I'm currently working with. And I got to tell you, I'll be honest, I'm still formulating my response to those questions, because if you've got an M1 iPad Pro, almost certainly you have no reason to upgrade to the M2 iPad Pro. If you've got an iPad Air or an iPad Pro, upgrading to the iPad definitely makes very little sense, and upgrading to the iPad Pro in many cases may not make sense. So it is kind of a back and forth there, trying to figure out sort of where it falls into line. And I've seen a lot of confusion and questions about sort of this new lineup for iPads. The other thing I want to briefly mention is that Apple announced a new Apple TV, still called the Apple TV 4K. And this model Apple TV supports HDR10. It's now got an A15 Bionic chip in it, so it's a lot faster and provides for some more performance. And I think, at least for me, most importantly, it supports Matter, which is a smart home protocol that is meant to kind of fix things that have been broken, so to speak, in the smart home. So all very interesting announcements from Apple. Many of these devices are already available for pre-order. I personally have pre-ordered the new Apple TV with an Ethernet connection now, yes, and actual gigabit Ethernet, which is exciting and good. But as far as it goes, I think overall, I am not surprised to see Apple not do a press event for this, given the fact that these devices just it's easier to find them in a press release and go to the website and order them if you want to. Trying to drum up excitement for these and justify an entire event, I think, was something that Apple was not able to do. We'll still be on the lookout, of course, for the Macs, which should, in theory, happen sometime soon. So I know Leo and I will both be keeping our eyes out for the press release for that. So yeah, those are Apple's new announcements for its latest devices, and we will take a look at those as they come. But I do believe that we are running into a break. This is Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Your questions coming up next. Stay tuned. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I am doing well. I am happy we're through that first segment.
The one where you just talk to yourself?
Yes. It's like, I remember the first day I did it, I ran out of stuff to talk about and was feeling a little bit, concerned, like, oh, I've got to figure out other things to say. And then the second time I was ready to talk for like 10 more minutes. This time I could have gone on for a few more minutes, but this one felt a little bit more okay. But
talking to yourself for 10 minutes is not an easy task. I mean, I give you credit for being able to do that.
Thank you.
I have no idea what I would say.
I would like to tell you all about my jeans bleaching technique. See, I have to go back to the things we talked about before. No, you could go on and on about pet stories.
Oh, I could, yeah.
So many pets. I know I'm kind of curious. What is the most exotic pet that you have you ever like babysat a lucky cricket?
A lucky cricket?
Yeah,
I've fed crickets to snakes.
Oh, yeah. Do people like bring you their supplies and, oh, my dog right now has an abscess on its toe, so I need you to rub this cream on the toe every second day while I'm away. Do you have those kinds of situations, or is it mostly like low key pets or easy to take care of pets?
It depends. Like right now I have a doodle who's adorable. Aww. And he takes Prozac every morning. Wow. How adult. And the funniest thing was I didn't realize this the first time I took care of him and fed him Prozac, but then I looked at the bottle and his name's Murphy and the last name is Brown. So it's Murphy Brown, goodness. Which was a TV show that you probably don't remember. Yeah, it's very cute.
I didn't. I knew dogs could take like anxiety medication, but I didn't know that Prozac was one of those medications. So this is a very chill dog then.
He's okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He unfortunately had a traumatic brain injury as a puppy caused by a bad dog at a dog park that should have never been there and off leash. So that's why he takes that. Oh, don't get me started about off leash. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
People.
It irritates me because I'm with a bunch of dogs that aren't mine. So, of course, I'm going to keep the ones I'm I don't care how much I know these dogs. I'm keeping them on the leash because I don't know how they're going to react to other dogs. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, keep your dogs on the leash, people. But snakes and bearded dragons and that bird are probably the most exotic things that I've taken care of.
Got it.
Oh, Milli Vanilli.
Don't forget my number. What is the number? It's 888-827-5536. Welcome back to The Tech Guy. My voice may be unfamiliar to you. I am Mikah Sargent, subbing in for Leo Laporte, and I am joined, as always, by the inimitable Kim Schaffer. Kim, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am hanging in there, friend.
Good.
Hanging in there.
Good.
So, tell us, what's on your mind?
What's on your mind? I don't know. Leo's in Vegas. Do we have any exciting plans for this weekend? I don't.
Sadly, no. It's like, I'm going to be on the radio show. That's going to involve a lot of sort of energy. So I just need to rest the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Certainly not waking up in Vegas.
At the end of this 3 hours, you'll need a nap.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take a nap. I'll go home, get some Prozac, take a nap. No,
not the Prozac. Not the Prozac.
We were talking about dogs during the break and the medications they sometimes take. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Kim, why don't you tell us who we should talk to on the phone today?
Let's go to George in Hudson, Florida. And Leo always likes spending other people's money. So you're going to help George spend some of his, I think.
That is very exciting.
He needs a Mac Mini. And which one should he get?
All right, let us head there. George, how the heck are you?
Hi, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I'm in a quandary, actually.
Okay.
I've got a laptop that I never used, and it's a Windows, and I hate it. There's something wrong with it. Again, I'm not going to replace. I'm not going to get another Windows machine. I was just wondering about the Mac, the Mini Mac or the Mac Mini.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Mac Mini.
Good choice.
So the Mac Mini is an excellent choice, especially now. So Apple has upgraded the Mac Mini to its own special chip. And before, it was running Intel, which is similar to many of the Windows machines. And now you can get a Mac Mini and get pretty incredible performance on that, regardless of which one you get. You know, you can get the smallest, least expensive one and be happy, or you can add, more money to give yourself more storage and be happy with that. It is absolutely one I would recommend. It used to be that it was kind of a machine that people would just use to run a home media server or to do some everyday tasks. But for the most part, I think anybody can be happy with it. What are you planning on doing with yours?
Just the basic things, Every once in a while I'll do a video or something like that. And I got my iPad, which I use Luma for, to do some videos. And I was wondering, can you do that on the Mac Mini?
Absolutely, yeah. So LumaFusion and the whole Luma line is very good. I have actually run it. I've got a MacBook Air in front of me, and this little device is, supposedly, one of Apple's least powerful machines, and it is blazing fast with it. My one suggestion for you, George, is to potentially hold out about a month or so, because it is likely that Apple is just about to announce a sort of redo of the Mac Mini featuring the latest chip, the M2 chip. And so you buy one now, and not only are you missing out on a discount if you ended up wanting to buy the M1 version, but you are also missing out if you wanted to go for the latest and greatest. You'd be missing out on that. Apple has been rumored to announce new Macs sometime before the end of the year, and so you might just hold out a little bit longer. But in any version of the Mac Mini, I think you would be very happy with it because, as I said, it's far more powerful than it ever has been, and would easily breeze through using Luma.
Now, we've got Logitech mouse and a keyboard, and a Samsung 27-inch monitor. Would that all hook up to the Mac Mini?
Yes, that wouldn't be a problem at all. So depending on which monitor you get, whether it's got HDMI, then of course that will work just straight out with the Mac Mini. If you decide that you want to use the USB connection, which in turn actually uses Thunderbolt, but that's a whole other thing. Basically, almost any display that you buy is going to have either DisplayPort or HDMI on the back. And so connecting that up is right there on the Mac Mini. Now, I want to make it clear there are currently two versions of the Mac Mini being sold. There's the Intel version and the M1 version. At the very least, I'm recommending the M1 version. But again, if you can hold out a little bit longer, grabbing that M2 version is going to be even better because, of course, it's got the latest Apple Silicon chip in it, which boosts performance across the board. But yes, any Bluetooth mouse or actual physically connected mouse and keyboard is going to work. If you use Logitech's special little connector, there are plenty of USB ports on the back that you can plug that in and rock and roll with it.
Okay, I can wait a month because I got Christmas is coming, and
indeed,
I'll talk to my wife about it.
Beautiful. Well, I hope there is a lovely wrapped square package underneath the tree for you this year, and you'll open it up and say,
I hope so.
Mac Mini. Thank you, George.
Okay, can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
I've got an iPad that I use for everything. It's a fifth generation. It won't take the iOS 16. It won't upgrade. And it says that they say that it should, but it won't do it.
So
it's upgraded to a 15.7 or something like that.
Fifth generation iPad, and this is just the standard iPad, right? As opposed to iPad Air or iPad Pro.
I think it might have been an iPad Air. It's been so long since I bought it.
Okay, yeah, there is a fifth generation iPad that came out in 2017. So if you bought it then it... Okay, yeah. So according to what I'm reading here, 15.7 is the current version that should run on it. But as far as upgrading, I'm not seeing it being able to be upgraded to iPadOS 16. But I mean, iPadOS 16 isn't out yet. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Excuse me. It's hard to say, but I think that it should be running that. What I would recommend in this case is a complete refresh of the iPad. You can look up, and we'll, of course, include in the show notes at techguylabs.com, the information that you need for that to do a complete restore. But I do have to take a break. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. This episode of The Tech Guy is brought to you by Nareva. Today's IT pros, well, frankly, they're in a tough spot because you've got this shift to hybrid and you've got hybrid working, hybrid learning, and all of that means that you have to equip and support more spaces that are all sorts of different ways, all set up differently with audio and video conferencing systems, and hope with all of your heart that they work as they're intended to. At the same time, they're busier than ever with network security. They're shifting to cloud-based solutions. There are infrastructure issues. There's so much that these tech folks are having to worry about. These factors, along with product shortages and delays, boy, we experienced that as well, have put an unprecedented strain on IT resources, people, time, expertise, and of course, budgets. The big one, the big B. This has driven customers to demand intelligent products that require minimal effort from IT to deploy and manage at scale, with the bonus of requiring zero end user training. So important. When it comes to audio conferencing in larger spaces, it's common to be faced with multi-component systems that are complicated and costly to design, install, maintain, and manage. Nareva is changing that by offering solutions that deliver a high level of simplicity. With Nareva, you get true full-room mic pickup from just one or two microphones and speaker bars. Compare that to the complicated maze of multiple mics, speakers, amps, DSPs, switchers, and other components in traditional systems. With Nareva, you can install the system in most spaces in less than 30 minutes. For larger spaces, it may take 60 minutes. It's amazingly simple. There's no special expertise required. Now, compare that with installations for traditional systems that can take your room offline for days. And some traditional systems may require you to go from room to room and use complicated software to get it all set up. With Nareva, you can monitor, you can manage, you can update, and you can adjust all your Nareva systems from a powerful cloud-based platform called Nareva Console. That's where the magic happens. Nareva is very scalable for large organizations, and their system costs a fraction of traditional systems. And now you can get 50% off one Nareva HDL 300 system for mid-size rooms when you get a live online demo and buy before December 16th, 2022. Visit nareva.com/twit. That's NUREVA.com/twit. Head there, get that discount. You want to check it out. nareva.com/twit. And thank you, Nareva, for sponsoring this week's episode of The Tech Guy. Hello, and welcome back to the Tech Guy Radio Show. I am Mikah Sargent, subbing in for Leo Laporte today, and we are joined by the hippest cat in all the universe. It is Scott Wilkinson, home theater geek. Hello, Scott.
Hello, Mikah. Welcome to the big chair.
Oh, thank you very much. The big ball, actually.
Yeah,
That's
the
what I'm
big
sitting
ball.
on.
I have sat upon that ball myself, and it's quite the thing.
I want to fix his desk. I got to tell you, there's this drawer that just doesn't close right.
Yes. You bang your knee on it.
Well, we'll have to get to that at some point. But, of course, folks can head to youtube.com/avsforum to check out your podcast. What have you got for us this week, Scott?
Oh, this coming week, I've got a good one. My guest will be Chuck Back. He is the managing director of a company called Trinov, which makes very, very high-end audio-video processing electronics. Now, they do stuff for professional cinemas. They do stuff for recording studios and the mastering facilities, and they do stuff for home theater. But if you have to ask how much, you can't afford it. I mean, that's the basic thing there. Still, if you want the very best and you've got the coin, that's what you want. And what we're going to be talking about, not Trinov specifically, we'll mention them, of course, but I like to keep the shows more general and generic. So what we're going to be talking about is room correction, which is the process of electronically altering the audio signal to compensate for problems in the room.
Ooh, okay.
So you put a speaker, you put a speaker in one room, it sounds a certain way. You put a speaker in a different room, it sounds a different way, because all rooms have acoustic characteristics. You know, they have reflections and certain frequencies get emphasized and other frequencies get diminished. And so it's often important, and most AV receivers, virtually all of them, except super cheapies, but virtually all of them, have some form of room correction in them that can generally automatically increase certain frequencies and decrease certain frequencies depending upon what the microphone measures. So most AV receivers come with a microphone, and Trinov processors do too, really a fancy one. And you put this microphone in your listening position where you're going to be sitting. And you say, okay, go. And the processor emits a bunch of bleeps and bloops and sine waves and sweeping tones and so on from the speakers. And the microphone picks that up, and the processor, the computer within the AV receiver, picks up all that information, analyzes it, and says, okay, I need to do this and I need to adjust that. And in an attempt to compensate for any acoustical shortcomings in the room.
Wow. So this is a sort of a change of things where before you would have to go into a room and find you'd have to, plan out, I've got to put bass traps over here and this kind of stuff over here. Now we can turn any room into sort of a perfect scape.
I wouldn't go that far. As a matter of fact, as I'm sure Chuck and I will talk about on Tuesday, the first thing you want to do is get the room as good as it can be acoustically.
Okay.
Because these room correction systems, even one as sophisticated as the Trinov or Dirac from Sweden is another really good one. Even as sophisticated as they are, they can only go so far. They can only do so much. So it's much better to make sure your room is as good as it can be first. And so putting in those acoustic treatments like bass traps and diffusers and absorbers and so on is the first line of defense. Mm-hmm. That is the first thing you want to do, as much as you can. And then once you've done what you can in terms of the actual acoustics, then run the room correction to take care of any leftover problems, or as much as it can. As we will talk about, these systems are not perfect. And so you want to use a combination of making the room as good as it can and the speaker placement. That's another very important thing. Most people think, oh, well, I got these speakers, I'll just throw them wherever and they'll be fine. Ideally, you want to there are places where you can put the speaker that will optimize their performance in a given room. So there's more to it than just stick a microphone in your listening chair, hit the button, listen to all the bleeps and bloops, and it's done and it's perfect. Mm-hmm. That ain't going to cut it. If you really want the best possible sound out of your system. Subwoofers are a whole nother story, because the low frequencies are where most of the problems actually exist. And so placing your subwoofer, or ideally more than one subwoofer, 2 is really good. When you place those properly, then you really reduce the problem of certain frequencies being really boomy and other frequencies disappearing, because the room is several feet by several feet by several feet, right? I mean, that's a typical room. And bass frequencies, the wavelength of lower frequencies, are often in that same range. And so they can create what are called standing waves that build up certain frequencies in certain parts of the room. That's another thing. Where do you place your seats? So all of these things come into play when you want to be careful and you really want to get the best possible sound out of your room. Room correction is only one aspect of it. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Chuck's a great guy. He's really smart, really technically oriented. He also works for a company called Procella, which makes speakers. So he knows he speaks speaker-wise as well.
He speaks well of speakers.
He speaks well of speakers, yes. You know whereof he speaks of speakers. So it's going to be a great show, and it'll be on this coming Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, youtube.com/AVS Forum. You can tune in live. You can leave questions in the comment section, and I'll be monitoring that and so on. And then after it's done, you can you can watch it later if you can't tune in live. I realize I think we're up against a TWiT show at that same time, and I really regret that. But anyway, there you go.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. That's right.
All right. So anything else that you want to tell us about or talk about this week?
Well, let's see. Actually, someone in the chat room, Mike B., I think, just mentioned that Samsung and now LG as well have started to license their TV operating system to other manufacturers, which is, I think, pretty interesting and unexpected. So LG's WebOS is what they call their TV operating system. Samsung calls theirs Tizen, Tizen. And they've now decided they were proprietary up to this point, and now other manufacturers can license them. I doubt any of the big names will. The article that Mike sent me talked about RCA, I think, and some of the other smaller brands or less important brands, what I called last week third-tier brands.
Right.
But this could replace Android or Roku or Fire TV interfaces, which a lot of these brands use. So it'll be interesting to see if these brands like Akai, RCA, and a bunch that are sold in Europe that I'd never heard of before, it will adopt these interfaces, these OS systems, and might see an improvement in those third-tier TVs.
Well, thank you so much, Scott Wilkinson, Home Theater Geek, youtube.com/AVS Forum. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Zonk.
There we go. Will you be sticking
you go.
around today?
Of course.
Bless you, sir.
Always happy to, unless I've got some pressing business, but not today.
Yay. All right.
I have to get ready for I'm hosting a brass quintet at my house tomorrow.
Oh, wow. So you'll be
going to be
playing
really fun. Yeah.
Just for each other,
just for ourselves.
I love
just
that.
For fun.
I love that. I think that's great.
I love brass quintet music, and I've got a great book of music, and haven't had a group to play it with in a long time. So got a bunch of guys coming over tomorrow, and we'll drink some beers and
that is really neat.
Play some Gabriele.
I love the idea of, you're going, oh man, it's been a long time since I've heard this, or you try to picture what it'll sound like, and you're just like, no, we'll just get some people together who can play these instruments and we'll make it happen. That's so cool.
Yep, exactly right. When I was in LA, we had a weekly meeting, get together of 4 trombone players, and we would play trombone quartets and drink scotch and tell tall tales.
Wow.
And when then the pandemic hit, I mean, we did that for years, decades. And then the pandemic hit and we couldn't do it. And so we were really frustrated by that. And now that the people can get together, I just ordered just arrived a Winix air purifier, one of these really nice air purifiers that I'm going to put in the middle of the group because we're indoors. Right. And I'll open the windows and stuff.
Do all the necessary things.
Do all the necessary stuff. But it's going to feel really great to play music in a small group again. It's just going to be great.
Do you find booze interferes with your ability to play music? And I don't mean in terms of intoxication. I mean in terms of dryness.
I haven't noticed that to be the case. Not unless you got really drunk, I suppose. Mm-hmm. There are other substances that cause dry mouth. And that does cause a problem.
I can see that, yeah.
That does cause a problem, yes.
Now I'm imagining brass instruments with smoke puffing out of the end of them.
Yeah, that can cause a problem. So if one is in that sort of environment, one wants to have a bottle of water nearby. But generally speaking, no. I mean, most of us, have a beer on hand while we're playing, and it's fine. So that's going to be really great. Good players too, and that's another
neat.
Thing. It's
You're not going to be going, it's a little off.
Yeah, it's a little off there. Why don't you tune up there, dude? No, we're not going to be doing that much. We've got some good players coming over, so that's really fun. And one of the reasons we moved to Santa Cruz was to be able to get together with people. In LA, I knew plenty of musicians, but we're all, an hour away from each other. So it's like you never got together. So this is very nice. Very nice. I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. User 1453 says, questionable move by LG. It undermines the difference between top tier and budget brands. That's a very good point.
Isn't it the hardware, though, that really makes a difference?
Well, no, it's a combination of hardware and software. But the hardware does make a difference, the processing.
Got it.
And I don't think LG's going to give away their chips anytime soon. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Tech Guy Radio Show. If you were listening and going, oh, what? Who is that? It is Mikah, Sargent, the guy usually in the second chair tuba. But today I am hosting the show as Leo is away in Vegas. Yes, he will be back with you tomorrow. Worry not. But until then, when you call 888-827-5536 or 8888 Ask Leo, you'll be 8888 asking Mikah instead. Welcome back, though, to the show. And I believe it is time to head to answer some questions. So as we press the right buttons to go over to the line, let's hear from Gilda in San Diego. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well, and I just have to say you have an exceptional voice.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I have a couple of questions. I'm thinking of getting my brother a Chromebook. He's a basic user, no gaming, just email. Mm-hmm. And can he use his current Gmail address with a Chromebook, or does he have to create a new one?
No. Yeah. So he will be able to. Yeah, absolutely. Basically, when you first launch your Chromebook, as part of the sort of operating system, the setup, you will be given the option to log in with your current Gmail address. So your brother will be able to just use that current Gmail address and log right in.
Oh, great. Also, he listens to a religious program. Mm-hmm. Can he download programs and also do Zoom?
So Zoom, absolutely. As far as downloading programs, with Chromebooks, kind of the whole idea with them is that you are mostly streaming, right? You are going to things online and you're looking at them there. And so Chromebooks tend to not have a whole lot of storage space on them. The devices themselves don't have a whole lot of space, but you are able to get, if your brother, regularly listens, then maybe, that one that gets downloaded after he's done with it, or maybe two or three, then he would want to kind of clean up, get rid of them after two or three are done. But then there'd be plenty of room for that. So yeah, downloading is not an issue, and Zoom is absolutely not an issue.
And I was reading that it doesn't need virus protection. It already has built-in protection. Is that true?
Yeah. So that's one of the beauties, I would say, of using a Chromebook is that the way that it's set up is to do its best to protect the user as much as it possibly can. And so basically, where with a Windows machine, for example, you are using a system that you kind of regularly download new things on, and it's kind of just, it's like, there's the whole teaching a man to fish thing. It's like giving the person the fishing pole and then walking away. That's a Windows machine. But a Chromebook is, you give the person the fishing pole and you sit right beside them and you say, oh, no, you don't want to fish over there, you want to fish over in this pool, and warning the person, keep the line in the water a little longer. It's guided along the process. So yeah, it is a lot safer, and the virus protection is built right in. And what's great about it too is it's constantly being updated. As Google learns about new issues that have come up, then it's going to get those updates as they need to happen. And I have to tell you too, Google's security team is incredible when it comes to finding these kinds of viruses and bugs and issues that exist across the internet. So yeah, it's great.
Oh, wonderful. Also, what do you recommend as far as the RAM and maybe a brand? Something that's kind of middle of the road. Any recommendations there?
Well, I'm gonna head to the chat room for this one because I know that a lot of folks that watch the show have different suggestions for the Chromebook of choice. But I know that the HP, I believe the HP Chromebook is a really good one for. That's kind of a higher level version. But if you're looking for just kind of the basics, I know, and thank you to the chat room, Acer and Asus Chromebooks. Those are the more cost-effective ones. And Leo has recommended those in the past. So that's Acer and Asus. And we will include links if you want to look back later at techguylabs.com.
Okay. And he uses a mouse, so he can plug in that. It has a USB slot, so you can plug in that little doodad, so you can use your mouse.
Yes. So there are some accessories that work best with Chromebooks, where you can just sort of plug them in and get them working just fine. And Google actually has a website where you can learn about that. But most dongle mice, so I imagine that, whatever your brother is using already with the computer, if it has like a little thing that you plug into the computer, if you were to unplug it from that and then plug it into the Chromebook, you should be A-okay there. You'll just want to check to make sure, because again, Chromebooks, they are working on being incredibly cost effective. So just make sure that, you've got an extra USB port that you can plug it into.
Oh, wonderful. Geez, I didn't know anything about them, and I knew this was the place to go for
Absolutely.
info. So thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome, and thank you for calling. And you should call us back and let us know what your brother thinks. I think your brother will be very happy with the Chromebook.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
So welcome. All right.
Have a good rest of your day.
You as well. All right, back to the calls. This time we've got Robert from San Ramon, California. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Mikah. How are you today?
I am doing well and better talking to you, Robert.
Maybe yes, maybe no. I've been following Leo for quite a few years, and I have decided I needed to get my own email service.
Woo! Yeah, I believe it.
So I got a domain, and now it's the question of which service.
Which service should you use with your domain? Okay, this is a great question. My first question back for you, Robert, is where did you buy your domain?
Hover.com, which is what Leo suggested.
Yes. So I got to mention, Hover is a sponsor on the TWiT network. But I have been a long-time fan of Hover because of how easy it is. And Robert, you're speaking to the right person here because I have email through Hover, and I also have email through the other program that I'm going to mention. So I can kind of give you some advice for both. So Hover by default gives you the ability to add kind of some different options. There is the ability to create an inbox that then works through Hover. And so you can set up, me at, chickenlittle.com.
Yeah.
And so you're easy to do that there. You can also set up an email forward, which is something that I use for some of my Hover domains, where it just basically takes whatever email goes to the email address you've set up and forwards it along to where it needs to go. But what I love about Hover on its own is that it's all just built right in, right? So it makes it very simple to organize things and figure out which emails I have set up. I like that part of it. If you're looking for a full-featured email program and one that has kind of all the bells and whistles, then hands down, I recommend Fastmail for you. And you can use a Hover domain with Fastmail. Basically, the reason why you might want that, because this is the other one that I have set up, is that it's got integrations with other services. So my password manager, for example, it is, again, a full-featured email platform. So it has, if you want to do your calendar through it, if you want to upload files and store those there, I mean, it is really powerful, and the costs differ between the two. Fastmail is a little bit more expensive, but you are paying for more of a service with it. So it comes down to what you're looking for exactly. Like if you were wanting to move to your own email and kind of be able to do everything, then I recommend Fastmail. If you're just wanting to kind of dip your toe in, then that is where I think Hover is best. But we do need to take a break. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls after this. You still there, Robert?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've learned to hang on listening to the other callers because, I know you come back. I know Leo moved from Fastmail and went to Tutanota.
Oh, I had not heard this. This is news to me.
I think he mentioned that.
So he may have. So that's the thing. Leo during the week has so many shows that he has probably mentioned that he's moved to something else, and I'm not aware of it.
Oh no, it was on the Tech Guy. That's
was
the
it?
only one I listened to. It's otherwise I'd be sitting on TWiT all my life.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Tutanota is an end-to-end encrypted email app and a freemium secure email service. So yeah, that I think is, I will tell you, it is a little overkill. While it is good if you are wanting to make sure that your emails are as encrypted as possible, one of the problems that I found with that is depending on who you're emailing and how you're emailing, the other person may have trouble being able to see your email because of the way that depending on how much encryption you do on them, then the email program might not be able to read it by default. And so it can introduce some issues. And I got to tell you, Fastmail has just been so fantastic that I personally, if he was here, then he could talk more about Tutanota, but I can only speak to Fastmail and Hover. And as I said, I think both of them are great. They both do a great job of email by default. Again, with Fastmail having lots more features and kind of spam protection and stuff like that in place.
Ooh, I want that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So then you may want to go there because Hover is just like, we'll give you a mailbox and you can have all of your emails sent here. Then it's your job to kind of do what you want from that point on.
Yeah, and I'm looking for the tech support too because we've just had a whole lot of trouble with our packbell.net
okay,
account.
got it.
And it's like, okay, now I need to do what Leo said.
Yeah. It often does take that. Well, then I think for you, Robert, I am going to recommend for sure Fastmail. Hover has great tech support, absolutely. But if you're looking kind of for a full-featured email program, that is what Fastmail does first and foremost is email. So they'll be there to help you along the way and get everything figured out. And you can use your Hover domain easily with Fastmail.
Okay. And they've got, Fastmail has good tech support.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
That's the biggest thing is, I worked for the phone company, so I've got a backdoor phone number to get tech support. But normally, Packbell, it's hard to find tech support.
Yeah, those free services. Fastmail is quick to respond. They list their information to get a support ticket on really quick, and they've been able to get back to me right away. I've always been impressed with it, and that's why I continue to subscribe and use Fastmail just because it works so well.
Okay.
Yeah, $3 a month for the basic plan, $5 a month for the standard plan. So
yeah. And that's what I was going to say on the show too. Is they're all fairly cheap, actually.
Yeah. Exactly. None of them are too costly for sure.
Yeah. So it's like, we got to get someplace where you can get. Okay, you've got me convinced there. Can I ask one real quick question?
Yes, super quick.
Okay. Yes, it is. I want to do a Flac to ALAC converter. Do you have any suggestion?
Scott, help me.
Hello, Scott.
I'm still around. Hey, how you doing, man?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was concentrating on typing something into the chat. What was the question again?
Flac to ALAC converter.
Oh.
Ooh.
Why do you want to do that?
Because I've recorded all my CDs on Flac. Yeah. And I'm going to go to an Apple phone. So
the Apple phone doesn't do Flac?
I don't think so. I think it does ALAC.
Right. Well, those are both lossless audio compression.
Correct.
And good for you for ripping all your CDs into Flac rather than MP3 or some lossy.
Well, I did that too. I spent a long time.
You got it both. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
MP3 so it's easy to put on an Android on MP3 if I need to, but now I'm going to probably go get an iPhone, and I was going, okay, well, I want my music.
John, our studio engineer, is telling me XACT for the Mac is the program that he uses for conversion.
Okay. I'll take his word for it because I don't know that much. I'd have to look it up. I don't know it off the top of my head.
I don't know enough either. XACT.scottcbrown.org is where it is.
Scott C. Brown.
Head to techguylabs.com and we'll link to it. But if you look up XACT Mac, then you should be able to find it, because that's what I typed in. I typed in XACT Mac in Google, and the first one was XACT.
Okay, perfect.
Sure. That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah, it works for me. I got to go check it out. I was like, what? And the whole problem here is I know what I'm doing with computers, but I'm getting older, and I'm starting to go, there's so much stuff out there. And it's like, that's why I listen to Leo.
There you go. Well, Robert, thank you so much for calling. Again, techguylabs.com to find those links if you have trouble finding them. And great questions today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you, Scott.
Hey, you bet.
All right, Scott, now it is all yours. I will be right back.
Oh, yeah. Go get yourself some Java.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So, hello, everybody. So nice to see you all. I was just about to type a message to Beatmaster, who says, a while back you mentioned you're looking for an HDMI switcher. How's that search coming along? I have not yet found something that works flawlessly. My latest acquisition is by TripLite, TRIPPLITE. And it doesn't work flawlessly, but it works sort of well enough. I'm waiting to hear back from a friend of mine at AV Pro Edge, I think is the name of the company. The real problem is with what's called EDID, Extended Display Identification, EDID. And if you have several sources, well, the problem is that with HDMI, you have a source device like a streamer or a Blu-ray player, something like that, and it's connected by HDMI to the TV. And the TV sends a message back to the source device that says, here are my capabilities. This is the EDID. And so the source device says, okay, these are your capabilities. This is what I'll send you. It's a nice, smart system. But when you go through an AV receiver, the AV receiver is smart enough to take care of it. But AV receivers cost several $100s. And so they've got, better electronics, better processing in them than these $50 HDMI switchers, such as the TripLite or the Sewell I tried as well, SEWELL, that make great products. But when I plugged in two different sources and then sent them both to the TV and tried to use the little remote to select between them, I would get problems. It would say, this device is not authorized, or because it also has not only is EDID involved, but HDCP, high definition copy protection, is also involved. And anything that disrupts either of those two things through the process called handshaking will cause problems, and the signal won't flow. So I'm going to have to spend more money than that. Now, I'm resisting spending more money than that for an HDMI switcher, because when we move into our house, which will be probably March-ish, I am going to get a new AV receiver, and that's going to solve the problem. So why do I want to spend hundreds of dollars now on a switcher that I'm only going to use for a few months? So what I have to do, what I have ended up doing is, when I want to watch the streamer, I plug it in, and when I want to watch the Xfinity box, I have to unplug the streamer. Clumsy, but there it is. Uh-oh. Looks like we're about to start.
Indeed.
Here we are.
It rolls back around. Thank you so much, Scott.
It does so quickly. Enjoy the rest of the show, Mikah.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Hello and welcome back to the Tech Guy Radio Show. Now for hour 2, I am Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte today, taking your questions. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number that you dial, 888-827-5536. I will answer and take your call. Leo will be back tomorrow for the Tech Guy Radio Show on Sunday. He's currently in Vegas. But until then, you've got me. So I hope you're enjoying so far. Before we head back to the calls, I did want to talk about an interesting bit of news, because I've seen this lately more so than we have in the past, where a company, in this case LG, has realized that folks like the idea of being able to use one device to rule them all, if you will, when it comes to kind of viewing and computing. So I remember back in the day, I was in college and I thought, you know what? I'm going to save myself some money. I'm going to buy one thing. I'm going to buy a TV, and this TV is going to be my computer display and my television. And I got it and I hooked it up to my computer and I said, oh, get rid of it. It's awful. It didn't look good for for doing the things that I wanted to do on the computer, because it was a computer, or it was a TV screen, and so it looked fine for TV, but it looked terrible for computing. And of course, technologies have improved since then. Now we're seeing increasingly these things called, quote, smart monitors, and they're very much of this work from home, years now we've had, that the idea is you don't need to have, especially if you live in a place where there's not enough room for it, all of these different displays hooked up in your space. You can just have one display, again, to rule them all. LG just announced a new 4K monitor that has LG TV features built in. It's got WebOS built into it. It works with smart apps like Netflix and Hulu, and it also has AirPlay connectivity. And so this is able to be both your computer display and your television display, and kind of switch back and forth between both. And it just takes me back to that time when I tried to do that and everything looked terrible. But now, these displays have improved so much and the technologies have improved so much that you can do this without kind of compromising too much. Of course, by making the decision to, invest in a display that's specifically a computer display and a television that's specifically a television, that is going to give you the best possible performance for both. But let's consider the fact that, not everybody can afford to do that. Not everyone has the space to do that. And that's where I think devices like this LG smart monitor make sense. And so I like the idea. The Verge kind of in this article goes on about sort of making a joke about how it is, if you don't have the energy to step away from your workspace and go sit on the couch to watch television or something like that, then this is going to do that for you. Funny, haha, but I don't think that's really what this is about. I think this really is a situation where if you don't have the space for it, then this makes sense. And if you kind of need to be able to do it, then you can. So yeah, it's $499 for the new LG Smart Monitor. It's a 31.5 inch display. It's got a built-in USB-C hub, so you can plug in all the things you need. And then it's got LG's nice stand for being able to move it around as you need as well. Clamp it to a desk if you'd like, and adjust it up and down from there. It also has a built-in Ethernet port so that you can watch the content at high bandwidth, so it's going to look better. But it also features HDMI eARC, so it really is trying to be the best of both worlds, that television and that display. And I just think it's a good idea. We've come so far in this technology that now it makes sense. Now it works. And it's not one where you're, again, having to kind of compromise between the two. So yeah, I think it's a pretty cool, the latest one from LG. But of course, there have been some in the past. I remember my co-host of the Smart Tech Today podcast, Matthew Casanelli, and I talked about one of these companies making a smart display at the time. And I thought, I'm going to get one of those. I never did, because I was good to go display-wise, but I always thought it was a good idea. So I'm excited to see that they're still making them. Means that it's still working quite well. All right, I think we will head to the phones for a question before we head into another break. This time we have a call, let's see, from Bernie in Lakewood, Colorado. Hello, Bernie.
Hi, Mikah.
Hi.
I love your show, and you're doing a great job there.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question. A few years ago, I scanned 35-millimeter slides into my scanner and digitized them that way. And I did it at 2400 DPI.
Wow.
Now, that's better than high definition, but not quite 4K. And so I guess I'm wondering if I were to take these, their bitmaps, slides, and to use a 4K program, something like what in Apple would be Pictures or
the Photos app, yeah.
Photos app or the video app. I think they can both make slideshows. How can I force it into being 4K? So the resolution isn't quite 4K, but it's better than 1K.
Right. So you're not saying that you want to re-scan them at a higher DPI. You want to use what you currently have, but you just want them to be kind of upsized a little bit.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so this is a little bit involved, but there are kind of two ways that I think you can go about this the best way. There's a program on the Mac called Automator, and it is built into every Mac. It's a utility that's available, and Automator is slowly being phased out for the app that's now on the Mac called Shortcuts. I still swear by Automator, though. It's lasted a long time. It works very well, and it is very good at doing a repetitive task like this. It's a little bit involved because you would basically launch Automator and you would say, I want you to ask me for photos, and then I want you to resize these photos. And you give it, this is what's magical about it, is you can choose, do you want to tell it to completely resize it? Do you want to tell it to resize at a ratio? Do you want to just say that the longest edge is, X amount of pixels, or however you need to do it to kind of upscale them a little bit, and it will do all of that for you. It's not something that I will be able to sort of walk through on the radio show because it doesn't make for very good audio. But what I can do for you is include a link in the show notes, techguylabs.com, to some information about Automator that could get you there. And I think if we can, let's we can also have you. I do a show called iOS Today here on the network. And if you email us, iostoday@twit.tv, with that question, Bernie, then my co-host on the show would be able to create a little basically shortcut for you that you'd be able to use to do this. That's the show where we kind of go more in depth with it. But yeah, between Automator and that, you should be able to do this. I mean, you could always go through and use an application that it has so many more features, but I think that you kind of just want to let this sort of spin in the background because it sounds, I imagine you have a lot of photos that you are wanting to upscale.
Thousands.
Yeah. So this is definitely one that's best for automation. I do believe we need to take a quick break here, but yes, techguylabs.com, and that will have the links to Automator and Shortcuts. And as I said, email us, iostoday@twit.tv, and we will be able to help you out even more, Bernie. Thank you for calling. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Back soon. Yeah, this is definitely a little involved. So you can, of course, use the Photos app itself. If Bernie, you're still out there listening, you can use the Photos app itself to do this. But again, sort of spinning on all of those photos all at once to try and upscale them, I think is going to be a little involved. So kind of having it run in the background through an Automator process or through a Shortcuts process would take care of this much simpler. And you'd have those photos at that 4K resolution or 4K size that you want. I'm reading an article talking about scanning in digital prints and what is the word specifically? Scanning in your film negatives. That's the word I was looking for. And they are even recommending as much as, 4,800 DPI if you've got a scanner that can do it. That's wow. You would see every little tiny speck of dust that's there. Well, I might need to figure out a news segment for when we get back from the break. Yeah. If you're listening, you can call 8888 Ask Leo, 888-827-5536. What was that, Kim? Oh, you know what? We might need some repeat callers today. This episode of The Tech Guy is brought to you by CashFly. So let's think about this. How in the world do we know that CashFly is amazing? Because I can tell you that it's amazing. Well, that's because here at TWiT, we have been using CashFly for more than 10 years, and they have been great for us for as long as we have been using them. You can deliver your video with CashFly, and you want to. Why? Because it has the best throughput and global reach, so your content is going to be infinitely scalable. No matter who is coming to look at the videos that you're putting out there, you don't have to worry about it. It just scales and scales and scales. And love this too. You can go live in hours, not days, with sub 1 second latency. So you're not spending all this time trying to figure it all out. Hours, not days. You can ditch your unreliable WebRTC solution for CashFly's WebSocket live video workflow that is scalable to millions of users. Beat the competition. That's what you want to do. No one wants to wait for content to load. I certainly don't. With CashFly's ultra low latency video streaming, you are going to see a dramatic increase in your sites and application speed for global audiences. And I said global audiences, that's because you can also reach your audience anywhere in the world. 50 plus locations around the globe, so the content will be delivered closer to your customers, outperforming local CDNs. And those origin servers, those S3 bills, they're chugging along, they're starting to cost you a lot of money. Well, take a load off of those origin servers, reduce those S3 bills, reduce bandwidth, and increase your cache hit ratio to 100%. What? With CashFly's storage optimization system. Plus, you get fully managed CDN solutions with CashFly's Elite Managed packages. Then you're going to get that VIP treatment, 24/7 support, and response times in less than an hour. That is so important to be able to get on the phone and immediately know that soon you'll be talking to the support team. In most cases, you'll call and go, and they go, I already know. I'm on it. They're already going to know of any issues. They'll be working to fix them before your team even picks it up, even spots that that's going on. With CashFly, that means ultra low latency video streaming that delivers video to more than 1 million concurrent users, lightning fast gaming, so you'll get fast downloads, zero lag, glitches, outages, mobile content optimization. So that way you get automatic and simple image optimization, makes your site load faster on any device, and multi-CDN for redundancy and failover. That is going to intelligently balance your traffic across multiple providers, giving you the shortest routes and mitigating against performance glitches. CashFly, it's 10 times faster than traditional methods, and it's on 6 continents. They're 30% faster than any other major CDNs with a 98% cache hit ratio and have had 100% availability in the past 12 months. I mean, all of these numbers are just telling me CashFly is the way to go. Best of all, CashFly has 24/7, 365 priority support, so you know they'll always be there for you when you need them. Learn more at cashfly.com. That's CACHEFLY.com. Thank you, CashFly, for sponsoring this week's episode of The Tech Guy and for always being there for us. We appreciate it. Welcome back to the Tech Guy Radio Show. I don't know, this music just makes me feel like we should change the pacing a little bit. I am Mikah Sargent, subbing in for Leo Laporte. I am also your tech guy. And we are taking your questions. You can call in and ask the ones you've got. 888-827-5536 is the number to call. 8888 Ask Leo. And we will happily do our best to answer the questions that you have for us. So with that, I think it is time that we head back to the phones to talk to Rich from San Rafael. Rich, welcome to the program.
Hello, Micah. How you doing?
I am doing well. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing good. Say, I have this issue. In the beginning we had problems with different remotes for home theater. Now I think we have a new problem with home theater, and that is with streaming service. You put on your favorite movies. You make a list of your favorite movies, like Netflix and then Amazon, and then the movie will migrate from one to the other, and you lose track of the movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're saying, you've got your favorite movie, and because you don't have a sort of media library, then you think that whenever you go to find it, you can find it on Netflix, for example, but you go there and it's gone, and then you're going, where can I find it? And so you have to hop over to Hulu, which doesn't actually have it, but instead you have to log into Hulu with a special provider account that is actually pulling it up from AT&T's service that is then playing it through Amazon Prime Video, and you're going, how can I find this? How do I get to it? What is going on? Why am I paying $5 here and $2 there just to watch this movie that is one of my favorites?
Well, I didn't even think it was that bad that way.
But that is kind of what you're talking about, right? That it could change.
And I have a solution which is almost perfect.
Ooh, okay.
Have you ever heard something called Real Good?
Real Good? No. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, Real Good, what it does, it just enables you to pick your favorite movies on like an independent list, independent of any service. First, you tell it what services you have, and then you tell it what movies you want to see, and then it'll tell you which services have your movie on it.
What? Wow. Okay, so this is for folks who are listening and may have missed that because I was talking over them a little bit. It's REEL good.com. Yeah. And so you say, these are the services that I use. These are the shows that I want to watch, or movies that I want to watch. And then it tells you all the different places that it's available?
Exactly.
This is great.
Wait, there's more.
Oh, but wait, there's more. Well, first, I got to ask: Are you an investor in the company, or you just like it?
No, I just like it.
Okay,
I'm just a customer,
okay.
And it's free. And they even have an app for my LG TV.
What?
So I can go into Real Good. Oh yeah, now get this: I can go into Real Good and pull up my list of movies, and in some cases, I can actually say, launch that movie on the service where it is.
No way. I wonder if they've got it for Apple TV.
No, and well, I don't know. I don't know, but it should be, or something like it. First, I wanted to see if there's something better than Real Good, but if not, what some people brought up is it should be on something like Roku. I mean, Roku should have something like this. And I recently gave a presentation with a woman whose husband works for Roku, and I mentioned Real Good to him. He says, "Oh yeah, we know about Real Good."
Oh wow! Wait, is that good or bad? Was that a positive thing?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Uh-huh. Yeah, I couldn't really make it out because it's not like we're aware of Real Good. Because what would happen if you go into your Roku box, bring up your Real Good app, pick your movie from your list, and say just launch it. Mm-hmm. Because it sometimes works on the LG TV, and I don't think it works with Amazon Prime, for example. I mean, it works for Netflix, but not Amazon Prime. But anyway, I mean, that would be perfect because then you have all your movies listed in one place, and it doesn't matter where they happen to be playing, at any given time. And then you can just launch from your Roku, your streamer, your TV, or whatever.
Yeah, see, so I guess I could see how it could be a problem if you had, if you were a service that also had the movie, and somebody launches Real Good, and Real Good kind of prioritizes one service over yours. So then you might be going, okay, I'm a little annoyed with Real Good, but then this is where I say, these things should be better and easier to use, and because they're not, then you kind of are stuck with what you've got. And I like this. So what I used to do which was way more complicated, was I would just type the movie into, I would do two things. I would type the movie into Google, and then IMDb usually would have some recommendations for where I could watch it. But sometimes they would be incorrect or out of date, and so then I would have to switch to something else. Or what I most often do now, because I have an Apple TV, I launch there's a search app on Apple TV. And what Apple really wants you to do is just hold down the little microphone button and talk to Siri to do search, but I don't like using Siri. So I launch the search app, I type in the name of the movie that I'm looking for, and Apple kind of has a built-in tool that is a little bit like Real Good in the sense that it will pop up the movie and then it'll give you a list. You can watch it here, you can watch it here, you can watch it here, you can watch it here on these different apps. But if those companies don't integrate with Apple and don't integrate with the Apple TV operating system, then they don't show up. And I think what's real good about Real Good is it doesn't seem to kind of rely on those integrations as much as I'm curious how they do their reporting to figure out what is where and how you can find it, because there's so many more options here. I'm looking through, I just signed up for an account, and there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's even Apple TV Plus on here, Discovery Plus, Showtime. I mean, everything that I could possibly want to find something on, it's all there. So yeah, this is exciting. I see it's, I'm using it on the browser now, but it also has an app for Apple TV. And as you said, or not Apple TV, it has an app for iOS. It has an app for Android. I'll have to try it to see if it'll work for the Apple TV later. But yeah, that what you were talking about, just I launch Real Good from my, Roku or whatever, and then it automatically plays. I don't have to think about it. That's how I want it to work. So that's
the way it should work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm seeing the chat saying that they know of a few others, including one called Just Watch, but they said Just Watch is not as good as Real Good, REEL Good. So I think you may have found the one.
Yeah, so if we could just get it integrated with Apple TV and Roku, we'd be set.
Yes. So you know what? Now that it's been on the radio show, listen, Real Good. Look into my eyes. I'm telling you, you've got to get this integrated because we need this. Rich and I need this, please.
Yeah, come on, Real Good.
Yeah.
Really, I should probably contact one of their product managers and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm sure they're talking to Roku and Apple. They must be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and like we said, it's interesting. I'm curious where there may be, bad blood or concern or what have you.
Yeah.
But we'll have to find out. Well, thank you for calling in with that suggestion. You've just saved my life. And I appreciate it, Rich. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hello, Johnny.
Hey, how are you, Mikah?
I am doing well today. How are you?
Good. So, is Leo sick or?
No, he's in Vegas. Yeah.
Even better.
He went to see Katy Perry.
What?
In concert. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, good for him.
Yeah. I've seen lots of photos that Lisa's posted of Katy Perry doing her thing.
Where does she do it from? MGM Park?
Oh, golly. I have no idea.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I just know she's in residence somewhere. But you're not in your typical place.
Well, you know what? I just went downstairs where my studio is.
Got it.
And I hardwire it, and it wasn't working. And the Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough, so I just ran upstairs.
Oh, gotcha.
I told my wife, I said, please just keep the kids in the room for
just
for
a few minutes. Yeah.
It's wild around here. She's at Resorts World. Oh, that's the new one.
Oh, Resort World. Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Jurassic
near the
Park
convention
property.
center. I was supposed to go there at a convention this past summer, but I pulled out because of COVID.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Interesting though. We were talking a little bit earlier about sort of artists in residence and how that kind of I used to think of that as it was sort of you're past your prime. But now that I think about it, it's like It would be so nice to just be in one location, get to set things up how you want them, do your shows, and people, as Professor Laura from the radio was saying, people are coming to you to see your show there in this one place that you get to kind of be regularly. So yeah.
Yeah, being on the road, I mean, especially as a musician, I mean, you're traveling with a whole group. And actually there was a big, this actually yesterday in Canada, I don't know if you saw that story, the Zac Brown band.
Oh, no.
Two of their band members got stopped at the border at Canada. My wife's Canadian. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, the Canadian Border Patrol is the toughest out of anywhere I've ever been in the world. If you have anything on your record, like these guys, I guess two of the band members had something on their record from 10 plus years ago that they have now off. But if you have a DUI, or if you got possession of marijuana when you were 18 years old, and some of these guys were like 50, they're not going to let you in. So it's up to the agent. But this one agent didn't let two of them in, so they said, "Forget it, we're not going." They canceled their shows.
They couldn't even do their shows in Canada because of it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's really intense.
Make sure you have a clean record before you go internationally. It's not just Canada, but Canada, they are tough. And if they find out that you're working and you didn't do a work visa, good luck getting into Canada.
Oh man, that's interesting.
So yeah, always apply. If you're going for work, you got to make sure you apply for the business visa and let them know. So they are tough. But the Canadians would say the same about the U.S.
Oh, really?
Kind of like reciprocating, yeah. For the most part.
That's see, I've never been out of the country, so I don't. All I think about is how stressful it must be to what has been some of the easier places that where you're just like, oh wait, they're not going to ask me this or ask me that.
I mean, there's some like in Europe, like in Italy and France. I mean, they're just stamping. See ya. They don't even ask you a question.
Wow.
But, Germany, they're usually tough. I mean, I didn't have my exit stamp one time. So when you land in a country, they stamp your passport. And my passport at that time, because I just got a brand new one, was almost full. And so when I was flying through Frankfurt to go to the Middle East, and the guy could not find the stamp, my entry stamp. And it literally took like 15 minutes. And it was because the person who entered it was so light. The stamp didn't have a lot of ink on it. So that's a good tip. Make sure that when you get your passport stamped that there's a lot of ink on it. Otherwise, have them do it again.
Yeah, that very good tip. He's been everywhere, man, and he's here with us today, fam. It is Johnny Jet. Hello, Johnny. How are you?
Hello, Mikah. I'm doing all right, hanging in there.
Good.
Trying to get ready for Halloween with two little ones.
Oh, that's exciting. Really quick, johnnyjet.com to check out all of Johnny's great work. But Halloween with the kiddos, that I imagine doesn't involve travel, right? Do you do that near where you live, or do you actually travel first?
Just in our neighborhood, no. But I just wrote a post this week actually writing about if you are flying on Halloween, the TSA has some tips. And I've flown on Halloween a couple of times, and I was looking through, it's been like 10 years, and I had some great photos that I took. So I used them, but, so they tell you, about makeup and liquid, make sure that, it has the TSA rule, the 311 rule, which is, a 3.4 ounces or less. It has to be in one plastic quart, although I never even take my plastic bag out anymore, but I do have TSA pre-check. Mm-hmm. So that helps. But even when they denied me that, they usually don't flag it. Although other countries, they do. You got to take your liquids out, but they also say what costumes you should be wearing. Obviously, nothing offensive or scary, and no props with like any kind of like fake explosives or grenade, knives. Not even, you can't have any of that stuff.
Do people dress up? Like, do they actually do that? I think I would just forgo any kind of...
Not many passengers do, but there once in a while you'll see some passengers, but a lot of the staff do, which is cool. And the photos I do have in my post are of one's of a Delta, I think, and one's of a Southwest agent. And, they do get into it, some of them, which is cool when the airlines allow them to do it. And, they're obviously not going to do anything risque.
Yeah. They would be very careful about what they are doing too, I'm sure, to make sure that it's A-okay to do. But yeah, I think I would just say, no. I'll save my costuming for after I'm off the flight. Thank you.
And you can bring pumpkins, by the way, through security.
Actual pumpkins.
Yes. And if you ever have a question of what you can or cannot bring through security, the TSA does a great job. I've mentioned it before. Ask TSA on Twitter. They also do it on Facebook, but I have much better luck on Twitter. You send them a tweet, within 10 minutes they'll respond during regular working hours. So you can ask them anything. I mean, you can even look at their Twitter handle and see if they're even working right now. It's usually during the week, although I think they might be on the weekends. It might be 7 days a week. And, people are asking, can I bring CBD stuff? Or can I bring a pumpkin pie through? But it's good to know, because there's times when you're really like, I'm packing right now and I waited to the last minute. I don't know if I can bring it. Just ask the TSA. They will tell you. They also have an app that you can download that I recommend as well.
I would imagine this is for people who travel a little more regularly, because I, as a person who doesn't travel all that much, I'm like, if I could go through with a unibody suit on and nothing else, no luggage or anything, I would do that. Just like to make it as simple as possible. Nobody has to ask questions, nothing. But somebody who travels regularly, like, oh, I'm going to bring a full Thanksgiving dinner on the plane. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, I actually think it's the opposite. I think it's for people who don't travel very often.
Oh, they don't know the tips.
They don't know the rules. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very handy for people who are not traveling it's handy for anybody, because I asked Leo and I were talking about, you can bring, they say you can't bring a bottle of water through security. Well, you can if you freeze it, and it has to be completely frozen. And I asked the TSA this question, and they said, yes, you're right, but you got to make sure it's frozen, because if it's not, even just a little bit, they'll deny you. And also, it's like this everywhere, but not every agent or officer is not the same.
Right.
Some might be like, sorry, that's not good. But you know what? You always ask politely for a supervisor. And, I had this problem with when we were traveling with my wife's breast milk for the baby, or baby food, or even some medicine. Mm-hmm. And it was over the 3.4 ounces. And they would give us a hard time. I'm like, sorry, let me speak to the supervisor, please. And, they make me wait 15 minutes, but I would speak to them. The supervisors, yep, you're right. They're allowed to bring it through. They just got to check it for explosives.
Okay, so and you were recommending this in a case where for a fact that it's allowed through. It's not like, I think that I might be able to bring my, 10 pounds shampoo of dog food or something onto but I'm not certain. So let me talk to a supervisor and see if they let me through. This is more like, for medical. Certain that you could. So they just don't know. And that's possible. I mean, we have that situation sometimes with, you talk to a support person for a tech company, and for a fact that this does or doesn't work. And so you do have to talk to someone kind of further up the chain. And then you have that moment of like, oh, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. This is how we solve this, et cetera, et cetera. So, if you're pretty sure that it can go through, then you just, as you said, politely ask for a supervisor.
Always be polite. Same thing if there's a problem with your reservation and the agent, you call up and they say, no, you can't change or whatever, but that you can. You say, can I just speak to a supervisor? I just want to make sure I know these rules. And then the supervisor, usually they'll make you wait. They always try to make you sweat, and sometimes they'll even hang up on you. And if they do, just don't be rude, because they'll put it in the notes. If you know that the agent you're speaking to is not doing anything for you, just say, you know what? Oh, I got another phone call. I got to go. Just call right back and get another one. And because, again, they're not created equal.
Wow. You recently on your blog, kid screams for 29-hour flight to Berlin. What would you do?
Well, my wife wrote that one, and it's, obviously it's not a 29-hour flight, but it was a 29-hour trip. The guy wrote that in his TikTok, so my wife put that up. But I was like, there's no 29-hour flights. The longest flight right now is 18 and a half hours from Newark to Singapore.
How do you tend to, you as a person with kids are obviously going to have some sympathy and empathy when it comes to other parents traveling with kids. But what's your advice to someone who does not have kids themselves when it comes to traveling with kids?
I only got kids 6 years ago. I flew so much, and I have heard every kid scream, some for the whole flight. And of course it bothers you, but you got to be prepared. Bring earplugs. Bring music, bring headphones that play music, or, obviously bring headphones, but have some kind of good music that you like to listen to, because the noise canceling headphones will just actually make the sound even clearer. But if you're playing music, either have calm music or rock, whatever you want, you can drown it out and fall asleep. You just got to deal with it. And now my kids rarely ever scream, but once in a great while they do. Of course I feel bad. We try everything we can to do it, to get them to stop, and most parents do. And you just got to suck it up. But, for a long international flight, that kind of sucks. I try to avoid red eyes because I want to make sure people can sleep. At least we fly usually during the morning or in the afternoon when my kids will take a nap. And we try to avoid red eyes as much as possible. That's a good tip too. Yeah, avoiding the red eyes if you do have kids. But yeah, I think that it's got to be a back and forth, right? A balance and some understanding. And yes, it can be difficult. But then what about the one that I find, kids fine. Somebody who is, I don't know, maybe pre-pandemic, someone who is feeling unwell and is doing a lot of coughing and they're just like somewhere near you. Not a huge deal. But the one, like that. No, now it is a huge deal, especially. Yes. But, I'm trying to think of all these different situations where it's like, oh, that can kind of fly by. But the one that I know would be very difficult is someone putting their feet up through the seat. You see that sometimes. Do you just ignore it, or No, you tickle them with something. Find something on the floor and you just tickle them a little bit, or you just turn around and say, "What the hell are you thinking about?" I mean, seriously, who raised you? Right. But try and be polite. But I was always a germaphobe, so before the pandemic, I always had masks on me. So if my seatmate was coughing or I was under the weather, I'd put a mask on. I would offer it to them. Oh, nice. You got to really do it with kindness. And but I've seen people, even today, you see people coughing and sneezing without covering their mouth, and you're like, what are you thinking about? Oof. People have lost their minds. Some of them are so rude, and they're just oblivious. They just don't care about anyone. And the people who are talking on their phones on FaceTime without earbuds or watching movies or music, it's like, seriously. And this week I wrote a post about a woman painting her nails. They paint their nails on planet. Oh, no, that's the smell. There was an emergency landing because the smell was so bad. Oh, man. Well, Johnny Jet, thank you so much. JohnnyJet.com. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. All right. Thank you, Johnny. Hey, great job. Thanks so much. Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine someone thinking that they can paint their nails. It's happened multiple times. And you know what? What's shocking is I did some research this week. It's not illegal. I always thought it was illegal. So I would just say, hey, that's illegal. It's extremely flammable. But, now these days, all I do is just hit the call button, tell the flight attendant, they just go nuts on them. Oh, nice. For the most part. Take care 99% of the time, they'll be like, sorry, put that away. Because it makes people nauseous. Yeah, and that enclosed environment. Oh, I can't imagine. But you can bring it through security, which shocks me. That is, I didn't know. I figured for sure, like you said, because of how flammable it is, that you wouldn't be able to. Ask TSA. You can just ask the TSA. There you go. I've got 9 types of nail polish I'd like to bring through. All right. Well, thank you, Johnny. I appreciate it. Hey, have a great week. You as well. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, that was a good question, Doug M. We'll have to ask that next time. What Johnny recommends for air or noise canceling on headphones. I mean, on headphones, on flights. Wow. Nice, iTech. iTech recommends quite a few noise-canceling headphones. Sony XM4 or XM5, the Bose QC45s, or the AirPods Max or Pro. Oh, I've not tried the Anker ones personally. I've got a pair of Sony noise-canceling headphones, and then my AirPods Pro 2nd Gen. And I really like the AirPods Pro 2nd Gen if you're looking for something kind of lightweight. But if you want full coverage, then yeah, you'd want to go Bose or Sony probably. I got to tell you, thank you, Professor Laura, our musical extraordinaire, who's just playing some great music today for me, Mikah Sargent, the tech guy also. Filling in today for Leo Laporte, your tech guy. Again, if you want to call in and ask your tech questions, 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number, 888-827-5536. That is how you can ask what you
want to know, and I will do my best to answer that question for you. I do want to mention again that you can head to techguylabs.com, where the show notes will be up after the show with links to the stuff we talked about during the show. But with that, I think it is time to head to the phones so we can talk to David in L.A. Hello, David.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you today?
Good. Well, I had a comment on Roku, but I think we've kind of passed by that. So I'm going to morph to your most recent topic. I got two for you. Number one, I've flown to about 70 countries. I'll tell you the country that is the toughest security that I've ever seen in the world, and also the strangest substance I've ever taken through TSA.
I love all of this.
So the strangest substance, I'll start with that. The first time I brought my father's cremated ashes through TSA, I didn't have any letter. I didn't have a document. I didn't have anything.
Oh, no.
So they, of course, stop you, and it's very dense ash. And they're like, okay, what is this? They had to call the mortuary.
Oh, my goodness.
And verify that my father had been cremated and that I would be transporting his ashes. So that's the strangest stop I've ever had. When I brought my mother's ashes through, I actually got a letter.
Oh, good.
But that was good. But the toughest security, I've been to all kinds of countries. I went to security on the way departing. They don't care coming in. But on a departure out of Tel Aviv airport, I went to the airport with friends of the security people. They knew the security people, and they still talked to us for 20 minutes before we got on the plane.
20 minutes?
Flying out of Israel, flying out of Tel Aviv is the wildest, most secure airport service I've ever seen.
Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, and you said how many countries have you been to? 80? 70. Holy moly.
About 70. 6 continents, remember. I haven't made it to Antarctica yet. You gotta. Antarctica's tough to get to.
Oh, I was wondering.
I got covered.
Does it have flights to it through special means, or is it mostly boat?
It's either special charter flights, or you have to take a steamer. You got to take a ship.
Wow.
They don't fly there that often. So that's this. Matter of fact, there's places I've been where they have like a 6 continents club. So if you've been to all 6 continents, you can join.
Oh, I see. You work together to get to go.
You need to travel a little bit. Nothing expands your perspective like travel. I'll just tell you. It's just changes your perspective on the world.
I can only imagine. It is certainly, it's next on my list. It's like you get through these other things you got to do, and then it's like, now's the time. And Leo always comes back with such interesting stories that really make me want to head out on the road. Now, I think it is okay to go back and talk a little bit because you had some stuff about Roku, I think, and we were talking about that earlier. I'd love to hear more.
Sure. So I'm a huge fan of Roku because the guy was talking about the service that he had. But Roku allows you to search across services right in the device. So I use it all the time. You can say, I want to watch, whatever, Top Gun. And it'll show you all the services that have it. It'll also show you the ones that are charged versus the ones that are just free if you're a member versus whatever. So I always think that's why Roku has a leg up on everybody else, because that's built into the Roku service. So he was talking about integrating with Roku. I'm like, man, I do it on Roku.
Interesting.
The search on Roku is spectacular. Yeah, it'll tell you, because it connects to all those, right? So Hulu and Netflix and all those guys are connected in through Roku, so they see the schedules and the availability. So I've always thought that was a stellar part of Roku. I keep wanting to invest, but it's just in the tank right now. So I don't know, maybe a good time to do it.
Yeah. What is it? Buy low, sell high. But I'll have to look into that then to try and see why Real Good is different, or if there's anything different about it. Because in the same way that Roku has that search, I was mentioning with the Apple TV, it's a similar thing where you, instead of going into any app, just from the main screen, you click the search button, and then it searches across a bunch of different things that are integrated. But I have found that on occasion, there will be something that doesn't show up when I use that search feature. And so that's whenever I've gone to IMDb or to Google just to do a search, that's where I think that Real Good could help. But I wouldn't be surprised
I'm sure there's some gaps.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some gaps there. But for free my Roku cost me $35.
Right.
Plug in the little thumb drive. And for that, it's pretty. I take a look at it. It's pretty decent.
Well, thank you for those very interesting stories, and also for that tip about Roku. I appreciate it.
Trying to keep it entertaining. Enjoying you today. Miss Leo. So wait, Leo's out watching Katy Perry?
Yes. As some people in the chat have said, Lisa went to see Katy Perry and Leo went with her. I think they're both having a good time. No. I think they're both having a good time.
Sure. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, David. All right. Let's see. We have, I recognize that name. It's Mikah from Maine. Hello, Mikah.
Hey, hello to my other favorite Mikah. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too.
Great job.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, I'm only calling in because you were short on calls, and I have a question that's relevant to your first monologue about the new Apple announcement.
Oh, beautiful. All right. What you got for me?
Well, I've been waiting for this time of the year because I have an old iPad Air 2 with 16 gigabytes of RAM that I've been nursing along until now. And I've been waiting for now to decide what I'm going to get instead. So I've been trying to decide between a new iPad Air with whatever I get is going to have cellular in it, and it would be the 256 gigabyte iPad Air, or should I go nuts and go for the iPad Pro? And if I do, should I get the M1 or the M2? I'm leaning toward the M2 because it just came out. How much memory? And the real question becomes, since the iPad Pro with the M2 is really the same processor, or practically the same machine as a MacBook, am I ever going to be able to run Mac software on it? Does it pay for me to go with a big 2 gigabyte memory and do that and hope that one day they're going to actually let me run it as a Mac as well?
All very good questions. So let's start with your iPad Air 2. What applications are you using on it? What do you use this iPad Air 2 for?
I don't really use it as much as I would like because it only has 16 gigabytes of RAM on it. But on my iPhone, for example, I do Zoom on it. I use Skype on it. I'm on Twitter on it most of the time. And I would do a lot more with it if it had a bigger screen. I would probably try to record on it. I would love to be able to travel with it. Actually, I use it when I do a lot of my podcasting and interviews. I'll plug an ATR 2300 microphone into it, and I can record on it and get wonderful high-end wave recordings on it that I can, that sound perfect. I'd like to be able to do that with the iPad. I'd like to be able to travel with it as a computer if I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah, so I want to say first, never hold out hope that Apple is going to sort of suddenly make, the iPad a Mac, that it'll kind of work like Mac OS, that it'll run a bunch of Mac OS apps, because for as long as Apple has been doing this, they've kind of tried to hold to the fact that they don't. Ultimately, I think that you would be better. You would be better off by going with the iPad Pro rather than upgrading to an iPad Air right now, and definitely the M2 over the M1. But I don't know if if you want the biggest, the brightest, the best, then that is kind of the way to go. But you may be just fine rocking that iPad Pro M1. I think in any case, going the Pro route is the better option rather than the standard. But iPad Pro of some sort would be a good get for you. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls after this. Yeah, so so you are already on this iPad Air 2 able to do Zoom and Skype and Twitter and even record stuff, which is awesome.
The apps on it,
yeah,
with only 16, with the amount of memory I have on it, or rather storage space I have on it, I can't do anything on it. I'm reading the New York Times and Skype, and I'm overloaded with memory, because my storage is pretty filled.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, then, I think if you were kind of looking for an all, inclusive machine that can be that travel machine, there you've got, I almost want to push you to the MacBook Air over the iPad. of course, if you love touch interface and that's important to you, then I think you would be happy with either an M1 or an M2 iPad Pro. They're both fantastic. I've got an M1 iPad Pro that, is blow away in terms of performance and can Apple's recently upgraded iPad OS to better handle kind of pro workflows where the memory is more swappable essentially between programs. So programs can better make use of the RAM that's available. And all of that is kind of tailored to that Pro line. But I think that if you're looking for a travel machine that you can do a bunch on, I got to tell you, I don't typically say this about computers in particular, and I try to be careful about being too googly-eyed about tech in general. But if I've ever come close to being googly-eyed about something, it is this M2 MacBook Air. It is so lightweight. I've just got one hand on it, and despite the fact that it's just this lightweight computer, it is so performative. It is like the battery lasts forever. Whenever I do the tech guy on the weekends, I bring in my MacBook Air. I never have to plug it in while the show's recording or even all throughout the rest of the day as I'm using it. And yeah, iPads are I think fun. And they can do a lot. And speaking for the display itself, the display is gorgeous. So if you're doing actual, photo editing or video editing on that, then that may be more the way that I would lean you toward. But doing audio stuff, doing podcasting, having Zoom and Skype and Twitter and all of these on them, I really want to push you towards the Mac over the iPad. But again,
what I'm probably going to end up doing, I prefer working when I'm working on a computer, when I'm doing my writing, and I write for Johnny sometimes too. I've got a number of posts on his site, but I end up doing that from my desktop, and I'm probably going to change that from my Windows computer to when they come out with the M2 Mac Mini. I'm probably going to go Mac and get a Mac Mini and do that because I just I prefer working in front of a desk. So I'm definitely thinking about an iPad.
Okay,
it's just a question of which one, and should I bite the bullet and go the full length and get the 2 terabytes of storage if I'm going with a Pro? That ends up being a lot of money.
Yeah. I hesitate to recommend that for an iPad. I have I believe the iPad Pro I have is 1 terabyte, and I haven't come anywhere close to that. But that's because I pay for the 2 terabytes of iCloud storage space, and I do all of the syncing magic where Apple will pull things off of the iPad to make room, and it does this all automatically in the background. I almost always recommend when Leo and I talk about Mac recommendations, we always say get as much storage as you can afford. But increasingly with iPhones and iPads, you don't need to go all that way with it unless you are specifically trying to do everything local recording, local this, local that, in which case you may run up against storage issues. But I have never come anywhere near the 1 terabyte that I have. And the only reason to go with the terabyte options over the gigabyte options is because bumping that storage space gets you the more RAM that you don't get if you get one of the smaller ones. But I think, Mikah, you wouldn't need 2 terabytes of storage on the iPad. But I would recommend going for the 1 TB because of the bump in RAM that you get through that. And that seems to be an issue for you right now where you're multitasking with this iPad Air 2 and having some issues and running up against the performance there. So yeah, if an iPad is where you want to go, it sounds like you deserve a Pro model. And as far as storage space, I really don't think you need to have all that space on it. It's fine.
So that's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to wait for see if there are any Christmas specials on Amazon and order it right then. But I'm going to keep my eye out for the prices, and now I know what I'm going to get.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to help.
And I want to offer you a recommendation. The last caller you had talked about Roku and how Roku offers that search in their interface and their software. And I guess you don't have a Roku device. I would highly recommend you invest in one and give it a try. And I know it's not Apple, but it's really I think Leo recommends it as the best streaming device available. And I've never heard anybody say anything bad about it in terms of its streaming capabilities and the software and how it works. So I'd get their high-end unit, which I think it's under $100, and give it a try. I think you're going to end up liking it. Yeah. I really do.
I will have to do that because, I've got Chromecast and I've got Apple's, and then I've got the ones that are built in. Technically, I have Roku because my TV is a Roku TV, but I've never tried one of the Roku streaming devices themselves. So, I'll have to give it a go.
I have the Chromecast too, and I got to tell you, I never use it.
I don't like Chromecast.
I can stream anything I want from my iPhone to the Roku, and it works really well.
Yeah, well, I will definitely take that under advisement, and I will have TWiT buy me a Roku. No, I'm just kidding. I'll check it out. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Mikah, thank you for having me on. Have a great day.
You as well. Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome back to the Tech Guy Podcast. This is the show where I, Mikah Sargent, am filling in for Leo Laporte, your typical tech guy. I am here to talk with you about the internet, home theater, televisions, travel, technology, and other buzzwords that have things to do with electronics of the future. Thank you so much for joining us to listen to the Tech Guy radio show. If you have questions for me, well, I've got a way for you to get in touch. It's a phone number. It's 8888 Ask Leo, 888-827-5536. And that is the phone number you use to get in touch and ask your tech questions. We will then try to answer them on air to the best of our ability. We've taken questions about Chromebooks, home theater. We've talked a lot today about Roku and other streaming services and how you can kind of search and find the content you're looking for. It's been a lot of fun so far. So why don't we head to the phones and take a call from, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Aiko from Missoula, Montana?
Yeah, it's actually Aiko.
Aiko. Hello, Aiko.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. How may I be of assistance?
I have a son who is trying to find out what the best graphic tablet to purchase because he would like to do drawings on a tablet, and he understands that getting a PC, that wouldn't be as efficient, but he also is interested in building his own PC down the road. So he's 15, possibly interested in engineering and
wonderful,
just kind of fiddling around with stuff. So we were first trying to figure out what a good graphic tablet would be for him to get.
This is a great question. And back when I first went to college, I went to college originally to go into graphic design. And before college, I was actually doing freelance graphic design. And so I was kind of in that same boat of what should I do? What should I get? What all tools do I need for this? And I bought at the time a Wacom tablet, WACOM. And one thing that I want to say about the Wacom tablet in particular is that these have staying power. They have lasting power. I bought that thing, it actually may have been even a Christmas gift at some point back in high school. And for years and years and years afterward, I was still able to use it. And I imagine if I pulled it out today, plugged it in, and went and grabbed the drivers, I would still be able to use it with my my modern machine. So if you're looking for especially an investment, then I feel there's no better option than going with the Wacom tablet. Now, there are a bunch of different versions, of course, of the Wacom tablet. There are ones where you basically just have a plain tablet that sits on your desk, and you move the pen, the stylus around on it, and you are looking at a screen in front of you, which of course is making the mouse move and making the cursor move to different places. And then there are the ones where the display is actually built into it. Of course, those are far more expensive. Those are quite the investment. And I recommend, especially kind of starting out with this, that it would be easier and much more cost effective to go with one of the more budget friendly versions of the Wacom tablet. Now, the reason, and here's one that's available for $51 from Wacom, for example, that I'm seeing on Amazon. The reason that I sort of recommend against any of the kind of third-party, no-name brands is that they are often going to have that issue of the staying power that I'm talking about. That, come a year from now or 2 years from now, the company stops supporting it and the computer can no longer use it, and then you've got to buy a new one anyway, versus this tablet, which is going to, work for a really long time. Now, I'm seeing in the chat some different suggestions, and it does make me curious. I do want to clarify. You do mean a drawing tablet like this, and not a tablet as in an iPad or a tablet from Samsung or something like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just had that moment of like, oh, could she have meant just an iPad tablet? Good. So, yeah, again, that's the problem is you go and you look for drawing tablet, and I'm seeing so many that come in at even like $30. And while it may seem like it's a good bet, oftentimes with those, you put the stylus down onto the tablet and the mouse is not in the same place as it is meant to be on the screen, that they don't quite work how you would expect them to. But regardless of from $50 up to the very expensive ones, if you're going with that brand, I think that with Wacom as the brand, I think that your son will be happy with the performance that you can get from that.
Is there a particular Wacom version that on the plain style that you would recommend?
Yeah, let me take a look at, because the names have changed over time. I know Wacom used to use the term bamboo for its products, and I think that those have changed since the time that I had purchased one. So I'm looking now to see what their sort of nomenclature is. And okay, yeah, so it looks like you've got the Wacom One and the Wacom Intuos, and that's INTUOS. So here's your kind of option. You can go with the One by Wacom, which this is kind of the, it looks like this is sort of the budget-friendly option. Or the most budget-friendly option. You can get one for as little as $49.95. I would recommend, again, it depends. I think if you would have a good idea of whether this seems like it's sort of a dabbling thing or if it's a longer term thing. And so I would suggest that if you feel like it's a sort of, I'm just dipping my toe in, I'm seeing if this is something for me, go with the One by Wacom line, which is their most or their least expensive model, versus the Intuos line, where if this seems like it's going to be more than just dabbling, any of those within that line are going to be good. And ultimately then it comes down to budget. Get the I would say between small and medium size, depending on budget. But large is going to be huge. It's going to take up a lot of space on the desk. There won't be a lot of room for the keyboard and all that kind of stuff as well. So I think that might be a little bit too much room being taken up, especially for someone who's just kind of trying this out. And I do want to mention too, thank you to our chat room, the photographer extraordinaire on the network, Ant Pruitt, he recently reviewed one of the One by Wacom tablets. So we'll include a link in the show notes to his review to be able to check that out as well, just to see what he had to say about it. But yeah, I think again, if this is just super dabbling, just checking it out, seeing what it's about, go with the one by Wacom. If this is more of a potentially a long-term thing, I think that the Intuos is going to be a longer-term bet, and that actually was the tablet that I got at the time, a Wacom Intuos. And as I said, I'm almost certain I could pull it out right now, plug it into my Mac, and just download some new software, and it would work just fine. So they can last a really long time if you take good care of them, and that's the one thing about Wacom that I like. It's an investment that sticks around for a while.
Great. And then my second question is, he's been talking about maybe building his own PC. This would be down the road, but I thought since I have you on the line, that I could also ask you about that. Is there something that you recommend? So he would want to be doing coding, possibly making videos, and whatever else he would be planning on doing.
Yeah, well, I do need to take a break, but I will answer your question off air on that one. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Back soon. Okay, so this is a great question, and for this one, again, we kind of go with understanding of dabbling versus sort of getting more into it. And I'm also consulting with folks in the chat, our live chat room, who regularly are building machines or considering that. I would almost recommend, and I think not the only person to suggest this, that you check out before you get super into, building out an entire machine. If you're wanting to do coding, you're wanting to kind of try out sort of building a PC and making it all work together, that a Raspberry Pi would not be a bad bet, because Raspberry Pi computer, it's a small computer, but it is very extensible. You can add stuff to it. You can, add little modules to it to make it more powerful, multiple monitors, and also has just sort of a base level operating system, the base level software that lets you do a lot of coding. As far as building a machine, this is one of those recommendations where I have to say it can quickly become quite the investment. And so it's almost better to start out with a sort of build it kit, where you've got kind of a base model that you put together, but you're not building it piece by piece. And then as you get more comfortable with having put everything together, connecting all of the cables and the ports and the wires together, that you then buy the more expensive components. And so you kind of get to upgrade it over time. So it's, as far as brand, I personally do not know, have a recommendation for what brand, but I'm looking now at some of the sort of PC build-it kits, and I think that, again, it is almost a good idea that whatever you choose to do, in fact, Newegg, which is a website that has lots of information about building machines and is also a great place to buy tech, it has a whole guide on building your own machine, and it has these kits in it. So we'll include this in the show notes as well, so you can check that out later and pass it along to your son. That's at techguylabs.com, and Newegg is the name of the website. And then that way, it can kind of end up being this thing where you're going, oh my, I've got to do this. But I do need to let you go because we are back from the break. Thank you so much. Hello, and welcome back to the the Tech Guy Radio Show. This is the show where I, Mikah Sargent, am filling in for Leo Laporte and taking your questions live on the air. The tech questions you have that you need answered. I do my best to answer those for you, help you out with the tech stuff that you are going, how in the world do I make this work? Why is this not behaving as I expect? What can we do to fix this? And so it is time to head back to the phones, this time to Benjamin in Pacific Palisades, California. Hello, Benjamin.
Hi, Mikah. Thanks for taking my call.
Happy to.
Okay, yeah, I have a question that maybe's come up before on the program. I have a regular M1 Mac computer, and when I go to YouTube, everything is clear and in sync, audio and video. Recently, my satellite supplier, Dish, offered me a higher-end box and device called the Hopper, and with that, I can get YouTube through the Hopper. But unfortunately, the lip sync is off. The audio is slightly ahead of the video. Is there any fix for that? Now, my TV has no sync adjustments, and everything else is in sync. So I've tried to talk to Dish, and they're not giving me any answers.
Yeah, this is interesting. So the Hopper, I imagine, is kind of a set-top box, right? It's a box that you can play Netflix on, play all sorts of things on, and one of those is YouTube, correct? So there are like different apps on the Hopper?
Yes.
Okay.
They have Prime Video and other things like that. And it's their basic DVR receiver unit to get all the stations that you subscribe to through them.
Okay. Now, how are you listening to the audio? Is it coming out of your television? Do you have a receiver? How do you do it?
Television.
Okay, so it's all just, it's just direct through the TV, no problem. And you said other apps on there work just fine.
Perfect. Prime TV is fine, and they're all based, I think, on internet access, and yet this one is out of sync.
Interesting. So someone suggested that there could be a frame rate issue, that this specific app, if it's YouTube content that's really high quality and so it's able to play back at 60 frames per second, that it is not working as it's intended to. Do you know if the YouTube app itself has different options for the frame rate or for changing, say, the aspect ratio, for switching between different qualities, 720p, 1080p, all the way up to 4K?
Well, I never looked at that. That would come up somewhere in the settings, I guess, on it.
Yeah, I would imagine that it would be, you'd launch the YouTube app first on the Hopper, and then within the YouTube app, wherever there's an option to, wherever you logged in to be able to get on your YouTube specifically, if you did, or any sort of settings option, then there is likely some place where you can change it. And the reason why we're suggesting this is because if you can change it, you can see if by changing it, it affects the frame rate, which then makes it so that the sync is happening, at which point then you'll at least know that there is some sort of bug with this app. Because when you're using the Hopper, you are relying on the company that makes the different apps to update the app that's for the Hopper, right? When you think about YouTube in the iOS App Store or YouTube in the Google Play Store, Google is paying a lot of attention to those. They've got huge teams working on those. But then as you sort of start to get into the more obscure areas, you've got smaller and smaller teams working on these different things. And so now you've got a specific YouTube app that is on a set-top box that is provided by the cable company. It may be that it's not as, they're not as quick to update it. And so there could be some sort of bug here, which would at least give you some comfort knowing that there's an issue that's causing it. But what may be the case is by dropping the quality from 1080p or whatever it happens to be, that could kind of jog it and let it play. And then let's see, another suggestion is to check all of the settings for the Hopper itself to see how updates are done, and then if you are able to update it there, then you can, you'll be able to do that. But it's funny, the chat room is providing one suggestion over and over again, and it's one that I don't like to give because it's not really an answer, but it is, have you tried just using YouTube on other things? And yeah, of course we can.
Oh, of course. No, it's fine on my computer.
Right.
There's no frame rate issue. It's only through this Hopper. So is there a setting that would change the frame rate? When you say frame rate, are you talking about going from 1080 to 720? Or
so that on its own does not change the frame rate, but so the reason why I'm suggesting that is because when those videos are uploaded, they're uploaded, at the highest quality possible, right? And then YouTube on its end cranks out a bunch of different versions, one that's 720p, one that's 1080p, one that's another, as high as it can go. And those are all served depending on what you select. And so it's possible that by choosing a lower quality, by lower quality, in this case, I mean a smaller video, 720p, that it might also be at a slower frame rate, that it might not be that full 60p if that's what it is. But again, these are all kind of troubleshooting steps. It's hard to know if that will potentially solve it. It's just something that you can test, and then go ahead.
But ideally, I guess it's Dish's responsibility to fix this. I should get one of their techs out here, have it documented.
Absolutely.
They have done something that they have not updated to keep the frame rate and this lip sync accurate.
Yes. So, and it sounds like that is going to be, so ultimately it depends on, because there are different ways that this can go. A company like Dish can go to Google and say, hey, we want to have YouTube as an offering on Dish, right? On our Dish Hopper. And they say, because we want to do this and we're trying to make this happen, you just give us, access to the API, and our developers will create the YouTube app for the Dish Hopper. That's one way. The other way is that Google might say to Dish, hey, I know you have a set-top box, and we would really like it if people who get that set-top box, who get the Hopper, are able to watch YouTube videos on there. So our team is going to create a YouTube app that can be downloaded to the Hopper, and then offer it in your little store, however that works, wherever you go to download it. And so depending on who it is that is in charge of it, that would be the team that's responsible. But if you contact Dish and say that this is a problem and it's actually a YouTube thing and a Google thing, Dish is more likely to be able to get in contact with the people who need to know on Google's side. So I recommend, yes, taking this option of saying, hey, Dish, here's what's going wrong, and here's what I think it is and what's working and what's not, and then going from there. Thank you for calling in with this, and I'll see if anyone else mentions this. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, that's an interesting issue for sure. Yeah, on its own, I don't think that, changing the quality from like 720 to 1080 it's just, again, some troubleshooting stuff that needs to happen to try and figure it out. Yeah, I agree, Joe. I do think that this is on Google's side. But I just want, Dish is obviously going to be working closely with Google and be able to reach the right people. And Beatmaster, that is a good point. YouTube, in many of its apps, has a stats for nerds option. You can see the frame rate. I just don't know where that would be in this specific YouTube on Dish app. So I believe Scooter X in the chat provided a link to Dish's website for the Hopper. And so I'm looking at it now and I don't see, well, yeah, there's a 3 dots and there's a gear icon. So yeah, might be able to get something. Yeah, Joe, I think you're right. This is ultimately going to be something that if... Now I've forgotten the name. If our friend who called in can kind of document this and get it out in front of the right person, then it may be solved. But then you also have that issue that is unfortunately very frustrating where a development team only has so much time and so many resources that they can put to a thing. And so if they can't get an answer, or if it's just one person or 2 people that are experiencing it, it's very far down on the list of being able to be solved. So I hate that. That's why I always want it to be something that we can answer here and solve for the person, rather than having to reach out to support and solve it that way. One of these days, when I've got more than like 10 minutes, I'll have to tell everybody the harrowing tale of my ongoing issue with Apple and Find My. My Find My network for my Apple ID is just completely zoinked due to some issues with AirTags, where they deregistered from locally from my device, but they didn't deregister on the server side. So like the serial number that gets registered with your iCloud account, that still exists somewhere in the server. But because locally it was removed from my device, then the sort of encrypted connection between the AirTags and my phone and other things, that key is no longer there. And so it basically confuses the Find My network, and it just spins and spins and spins and spins. So I can't add any new AirTags to my iCloud account. I can't remove the ones that I have. And so it's just stuck. And I spent, I think it was 3 hours on the phone with Apple support, where we went through a whole bunch of different stuff trying to solve it. And I spoke to some engineering people and tried to solve it, and it's still not solved. So I can't use any Find My items like AirTags or the third-party options, like some headphones that have AirTag stuff built into them, Find My stuff built into them. And even Find My phone or Find My Mac or Find My whatever, if I launch the Find My app on my phone, it will just spin and spin and spin. You have to select the device's photo on the map in order to see that one specifically and be able to make some changes to it. It won't show up in the list. So yeah, it's been not fun trying to get that solved, but I have to wait until the next version of iPadOS is finally out so that all of my devices are off betas, because if your device is on a beta and you call in and try to get help with support, they automatically go, oh, it's because you're on the beta. That's the problem. And so then you have to call their beta team, which then is a whole nother process. So I'm waiting for iPadOS to hit and macOS Ventura to hit, and then all of my devices will be off betas, and then it'll be working again, hopefully. Welcome back to the Tech Guy Radio Show. I am Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte. The phone number you could call is 888-827-5536, 8888. Ask Leo and Mikah. And you will be able to ask your question live on air. Up next, we're going to have Dick DeBartolo. But until then, we will head back to the phones for another question, this time from Robert in Bray, California. Hello, Robert.
Hello, it's Robert in Brea.
Brea. Nice. Where is Brea?
Yeah. It's close to Disneyland.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, I hope you are having a magnificent and magical day.
Yes, always.
Good. I'm happy to hear it.
Sunny in Southern California.
Indeed. So how can I help you, Robert?
So I've got an old computer. It's a gigabyte dual processor Core 2.
Okay.
And I've installed Linux Mint on it, version 19.2. It's up to date.
Uh-huh.
But it seems like not every time, but every fifth or eighth time that I boot the system, it's got a slow boot. And then the operating system is very slow in responding. So when I reboot it, then everything's back to normal.
Interesting.
And I haven't been able to figure out why it's getting a slow boot.
Okay, so you've got a slow boot, and then you reboot it again, and then the boot is no longer slow?
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
The boot is no longer slow, and the operating system is running normally.
Okay, so let's walk through the process. You have the computer off, and or maybe you have it on and you're using it, and then suddenly you recognize that applications are slow to launch and things are not running as you would expect them to. So you restart the machine, and when it restarts, then the boot is taking forever. And then it finally loads, you get into the system, but it's still running slow. So you reboot one more time, and then it's running quickly?
It's close.
Okay.
It's not that I recognize that the system is running slowly and I reboot and then it's got a slow boot. Mm-hmm. It's when I power up the system and boot it for the first time, I recognize that instead of the normal 30-second or 45-second boot time, it's taking like 2 or 3 minutes to boot.
Interesting.
And
okay.
then once it's booted, the operating system is slow in response and everything else. And then when I reboot it, then it's got a short boot. It's back to its 30-second boot, and everything's running normally again.
Okay. How old is your hard drive in this machine? Is this the original hard drive that came with it?
No, it's rather new. It's a SSD.
Okay, you've got an SSD. Okay. Yeah, because the chat and I were sort of some suggestions there were potentially what was going on here is if you've got an old enough hard drive, then you wouldn't believe, but old enough hard drive, and there is kind of a warm-up period. So when it was kind of booting that first time, it was sort of, and then you restarted it, and then it was running a little bit faster. They are mentioning that there could be a bad sector in the SSD that is causing this, or that there could be some overheating going on upon rebooting that could help. But here is one suggestion that I think is a good option. So obviously one of the beauties of Linux is kind of being able to run it from different places, right? So the suggestion is to install your Linux on a USB key, a flash drive, and run it from that flash drive on the machine and see if there's a slow boot there or if there's not, because by doing that, then we factor out the SSD being an issue. If you're still getting a slow boot, then there's likely something else that is causing the problem as opposed to it being the SSD. If you don't get the slow boot, then you are kind of narrowing it down. It is probably that there's something going on with the SSD. And there are many different ways to solve this, one of which is, I don't know how many TWiT shows you watch, but our friend and pal for Security Now, Steve Gibson has the SpinRite program, and that could be helpful in SSD, sort of checking to see if there's anything going on with the SSD. So again, oftentimes what this show ends up being is providing some troubleshooting steps if it's not as easy as a 1, 2, 3. And this is one of those issues where it's hard to tell exactly what it could be. But by narrowing it down, you'll get more of an idea. Some folks are suggesting that if you are booting from the flash drive and it is still slow booting, that it could be your power supply that is at fault here. And if it isn't, the flash drive, then that is where we would look at the SSD and need to kind of check on that, especially because you've got the latest version of Linux Mint running just fine on the machine. And I guess the one other question I would ask is, how long ago did you start to notice this being an issue?
Oh, it's been happening for over a year. It started with version 19.1, and I've just kind of ignored it. I'm hoping a future update might fix it. But
okay, so you feel like it might be tied to the distro.
I think it's tied. Personally, I think it's tied to the distro. It's not a heat-up problem with the SSD, because I noticed it first thing in the morning when I boot it up first time in the day. Sometimes it boots up very slow.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I'm seeing, I went to Linux Mint and it's showing Linux Mint 21 as the latest version.
Correct. I have not upgraded to the latest version.
Okay.
I'm still on 19, on the 19 thread.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, I think you might try, again, doing the USB key just to see if that, or even if you've got space to do a partition and trying it that way just to see if the 21 channel solves the problem versus the 19. That might get you somewhere. But yeah, outside of that, if you feel like it's got something to do with the latest version, you started to notice it after you upgraded to 19.1. I hesitate to suggest otherwise. I run Pop! OS on my Linux machine, so I don't have a whole lot of experience with Linux Mint myself. But those are the best bets I've got for you, or the best suggestions I've got for you regarding how you might solve this slowing issue. But I am sorry you're experiencing that. Hopefully one of those suggestions will be helpful, and maybe that update that you're talking about would kick things back into the gear as you're expecting.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you calling, Robert. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Robert. This is a tough one because there are so many different flavors of Linux, and any number of them could be not properly updating firmware for your different components, or there's some other issue, some memory leak somewhere, or if it is a hard drive issue itself. There's so much that could be going wrong, and that is where we end up having to provide some suggestions for troubleshooting to kick things back into working shape by finding whatever the problem is. Mikah Sargent in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, won't you listen? Oh, wait, too soon. Welcome back to the Tech Guy Radio Show. I am Mikah Sargent subbing in for Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, and it is time for Disco Dancing Dickie DeBartolo. Welcome, Dick.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. You're doing a super job. Thanks. I think that's great.
Thank you so much. So, you are our gizmo wizard, the one who has all the gizmos, gadgets, and gewgaws.
Yes. And I think you're going to like this. So it's from a PepCom event. That's one of those things where about 40 companies get together and they each have a table and they show you something new. Mm-hmm. And this is their holiday edition of it. So this is a device called RUKUSfx.
Ooh, Rukus.
This is a little handheld, motion-controlled music maker, and it has all separate little tracks in it so that you can, and as you move it around,
it makes music?
It makes music. If you go one way, it makes a certain music. If you shake it, it makes a different way. If you swipe it, if you twist it.
So it's kind of like reminds me of a Bop It, except this one is just for making music.
Exactly. And it has 120 music tracks built into it. And then you alter them by you're shaking it around. And it has a USB-C, and I immediately plugged the charging cable in it and then opened the instruction book, which I rarely do. And it said, USB-C is not for charging.
Oh, wow.
So I unplugged. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what is it for? It is so you can record the track as you make it.
Oh.
So that is USB-C out. It has USB-C in if you want to put in some of your own tunes and then alter them by adding beats and shaking it and doing other alterations to the music. And then there's 80 sound effects, including sounds of people passing gas and other. The guy says, well, we put these in because the kids love this kind of stuff.
Right.
So it has a little built-in speaker and so you don't drive everybody crazy. There's a headphone jack.
Okay, I was going to ask if it had aux out. That's
yes,
good.
yes, no, absolutely, absolutely. And at the show, the guy was using the little aux out to hook it up to his speaker. It's $49.99. Not on Amazon, but it's on Walmart and their own website, RUKUSfx.com. And it has LED lights in it, and it's a little handheld guy.
It is primed for the TikTok market, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh my. I as a matter of fact, I think in the press release they have their own YouTube channel, and I think they have their own TikTok channel. You're right.
Would not be surprised.
Perfect for that.
Yeah, because you've got the lights going.
Yes, you have the dancing LEDs. You have the movement.
YouTube is not cooperating with me, but
it's not okay. And it's great because you're doing some movement in order to make the music. So there's a little bit of exercise involved in it. So I think kids are going to love this.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. And yeah, it looks like it's super full featured in terms of all the different little buttons you can press, all the little things you can, again, they said punch, swipe, twist, flick, and then that light up part of it. Yeah, this seems like a lot of fun. I could see, again, as you mentioned, it could get annoying, but with the headphone jack or the aux out, being able to, show some dance moves that involve this is pretty neat.
No, absolutely. And it's very funny because I'm one of the drilling down, I found the inventor. Actually, the guy in the video that I put on my website is the inventor. But early on, they had what the little device would look like. And then he had a thing about the size of a phone book. And he said, this works great. Now, all we have to do is get all the works in the phone book to fit in the little
tiny thing.
And I think it took like a couple of years, but they did it.
Yeah, they got there in the end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that one, I could see several family members who would have a lot of fun with that for sure. That's available. You can head to gizwiz.biz, which is Dickie D's website. You'll go to the right side and find the Giz Wiz Visits the Tech Guy, so you can learn about that. But there's also the What the Heck Is It contest, where you can try to figure out what the heck is going on, what the heck this item is. And again, the computer is just not playing ball with me today, so I can't show it. But if you can correctly guess or incorrectly guess in a way that makes a few people giggle, then you may win this very important, very special, I'm going to actually pull this out, the special anniversary issue of Mad with this lovely pull out here. Let's see. How can I? Okay, there we go. This lovely pull out cover here that is wraparound cover that is just fantastic. I really like this one. It's delightful with the
Alphabet is celebrating 70 years.
70 years, my goodness.
And I tweeted it, but in case people didn't see it, when Mad first came out, Time Magazine reviewed it with, I think, a 7-word review. Mad Comics will be a short-lived satirical pulp.
Wow. Boy, were they wrong. Yes.
Time Magazine.
I love that. I love that you can look back on that and go, you know what? You were wrong. Now the computer, I think, is playing ball. So I can at least show you this strange, if it loads, this strange item. There we go. You got to try to figure out what that is. Now, the tape on there, I assume, is covering up a brand, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah, this one is the most perplexing that I think I've seen since I started joining on Saturdays.
Then my job has been done well.
You have done a great job. And as of note, these are items that are available to purchase like today. It's not as if you go through an old...
No, and it's the whole item. Someone sent me a photo and said, can you guess what this is? And I said, no, that's great. I could use this. I said, what the heck is it? what is it? And he said, it's part of a table that holds up the leaf. And I said, well, wait a minute.
Can't just be the piece. Come on.
No, it has to be a whole gadget.
All right. Well, gizwiz.biz is the website to find all of that. And I want to thank you so much, Dickie D, for joining us today to talk about a very interesting, a very ruckus-giving gadget there. And again, you got to participate in the What the Heck Is It contest. Let's try to figure out what's going on here and potentially get this wonderful special anniversary issue of Mad, which, as you pointed out, is available both. You can get it directly. You can also get it. Is it Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble is the only mass market distributor.
And then also,
unless you're a subscriber, and comic book stores. And
on Kindle and Comixology. So if you are a longtime comic nerd, you'll know about Comixology. You can get it there as well, or on Kindle. Dickie D, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And all of you out there listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Mikah Sargent. Leo Laporte will be back tomorrow for the Sunday episode of The Tech Guy, back from Vegas. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the wonderful questions, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a great Geek Week.
Still have 20 seconds.
And I will continue saying, have a great, great, great Geek Week until I see you next Saturday. And Leo, we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Tech Guy Radio Show. Remember those notes, techguylabs.com.
Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.